Come on, living stone. We're gonna go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We're gonna go on and on and on. Come on, living stone.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across. It's turned in. It's Pittman who's got it. Livingston leads.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien. Lead! And Livingston have the lead! Man, can score.
If we march to
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates. And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
come on, living
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Hello and welcome back to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name is Angus and today I'm joined only by Euan. How are you doing, Euan?
Yeah, I'm in a good mood, mate. Another Livy double this weekend. Obviously, both the men's and women's team winning. It's a bit of a novelty for you this week. You're coming on to talk about Livy victories for a change. You were getting associated on Twitter earlier in the week, the defeats, weren't you? So, a bit of a novelty for yourself, but yeah, all good. Should be a good podcast this week, as I say, with the results. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, not doing too bad, as you say. Yeah, it was starting to become, quite a dreaded thing, coming on here to talk about football games because, obviously I didn't get to talk about the game against St Johnstone. Never got to talk about the game against Celtic. So I think you have to go back to, the win against Hamilton for the last time that, I would have been able to talk about the men's team winning a match. So, delighted to get into it. But yeah, we'll get to that. But as always, you can find this episode as well as all of our others on your preferred podcast streaming site. Just search for Talk Livi, so follow us and subscribe to ensure that you don't miss another episode.
We'll start the episode off by discussing the Lions' Highland fling against Ross County as they left it late to snatch all 3 points.
The Lionesses were back on home plastic as they welcomed Clyde. We'll discuss all the action from that one.
It's a busy week ahead for Livy as they welcome Dundee United to West Lothian midweek before a trip to Glasgow to take on Celtic. We'll chat about our thoughts ahead of those games as well.
The Lions made the long trip to the Highlands to take on a winless Ross County side on Saturday. Despite a very poor performance, a 95th minute Tom Parks header sent the away end home happy. Euan, what was your take on the game?
Yeah, as you kind of touched on there, it was a bit of a snatch and grab, to be honest. I don't think we, other than maybe a 15-minute spell before half-time, I don't think we played great at all. I'd go as far as saying that opening half hour, other than the performance at Tynecastle was arguably the worst we've played this season. The opening half hour, we were not at it at all. And granted that, I listened to Davy's comments and having been at the game as well, there was a really strong wind that Ross County were playing with in the first half, which probably didn't help matters in terms of trying to get out. But we were just camped in our half for the opening half hour. We were struggling to get up the park. The 2 wide players, obviously for Ross County, Charles Cook, who I mentioned last week, would probably prove to be a threat, which he did. The boy Hungbo on the right hand side caused us all sorts of problems for the duration of the game. And to be fair, when Ross County went a goal up, it was coming, and it's exactly what they deserve from the game. And don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic strike by the boy Clark, but from our point of view, I think Omionga or Obalai can go and engage him a bit quicker than they do and press the ball and close him down, because he takes 2 or 3 touches out his feet. You can tell he's going to set up a strike, and it just takes one of them to go out and go and close the ball down. It doesn't happen, but fair play, it's a tremendous strike. But big turning point in the game was the penalty. I don't think Fitzy covers himself in glory for the penalty. I think he's beat quite easily on the edge of the box. I think if he just goes and takes him out, it's a free kick. and you can try and go and defend it from there. But and I think it's a clear penalty, to be honest. Charles Cook's just that fraction quicker than him to the ball. But Max is, don't get me wrong, we've occasionally been critical of Max for some of the mistakes he's made this season, but he's made a huge save for us, which has proved to be a turning point in the game. Really good save from the penalty from Jordan White, obviously an ex-Livy player as well. But I think that actually was the proverbial boot up the arse that we needed in the game. And I think we got back into it totally against the run of play, managed to grab the equaliser. It's a great switch by Fitzwater out to Kelly. It's a fantastic cross, to be fair. And Anderson's done everything you would want your striker to do, head it down into the ground, make it difficult for the keeper, and we've managed to get level. And to be honest, we could have gone 2-1 up straight after it as well. Bailey's had a good chance on the turn in the box. It's got blocked, but then a bit of magic from Odin. We've spoke about how we've seen flashes of him and the ability that he's got. Last couple of weeks, he's really added that end product to his game, and his goal, he's taken it brilliantly. Come inside, and we were right behind it in the away end, being right in the corner, and as soon as it left his foot, it was in. You were celebrating just as he hit the ball, and it was unbelievable striking. I think every Ross County player, fan, Malky Mackay at half-time would have been scratching their head as to how they were 2-1 down in the game. Second half, I think we'd completely nullified the game, to be honest. There was very little happening in the game. It was very scrappy. And then the penalty happened. We've stood off the boy Hungbo, allowed them to travel 20 yards with the ball into our box. And again, it's a clear penalty for me. I know Davey was a bit sceptical about it, but Sean's hung out a leg, and I think it's a clear penalty. And Max is very unlucky not to have saved it from Callahan. But after that, we desperately had to make a change in the setup, and Davey went to a back three. Having sat in the away end, there was a bit of debate. I'll put it as a polite debate amongst fans of going to a back three. But to be honest, I think it was the decision that had to be made, because the two white players, as I say, were causing absolute havoc all afternoon, and we had to try and nullify it. And folk were going, Davey's going for the draw, I don't think he was going for the draw. I think he was trying to get a foothold in the game again by going to a back three and trying to nullify what was their two biggest threats all afternoon. And I think we did take the sting out of the game a little bit. And going into it late on, Tom Parks, the header, it's a great delivery by your man Alan Forrest, and unbelievable header, by the way, from Tom Parks. Unbelievable header, and it sent the away end into absolute raptures. I was running down the front. I opted against going on the pitch because I realised I'm 30 years old now, and I didn't want to embarrass myself. So I just stayed in the stand. But there's no better way to win games of football. Me and Bruni were talking about the Scotland-Israel game last week, and there is no better way of winning games of football than that. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't a performance I'm going to remember, but when you make these long trips up to the likes of Inverness, Ross County, etc., it's moments like that make it really worth it. And it was a huge 3 points for us in the end.
Yeah, it's that kind of strange duality, isn't it, that you get from football games sometimes, the absolute kind of pandemonium and like ecstasy from, that kind of a moment that just sends everything in like complete jubilation. You kind of forget about, all the prior events that happened from it. I guess it's only kind of now again, then you start to think about that the performance as a whole. And I guess that's like what the kind of management team and that will be doing now is, kind of dissecting that performance and kind of looking at, right, what can we improve on? Because, Callum said on commentary when the first goal went in, he was like, I'm not sure we quite deserve it. It's basically quite an understatement, I would say. We really were, other than, kind of like those kind of free chances we did very, very little in the game. And I guess a better side probably wouldn't have had that kind of an opportunity. But again, like, you've got to give credit to the lads who, eventually did do enough to, to draw a result out. But should we have concerns, Euan, based on that performance, that, we've went and played a team who realistically should have, the lowest confidence in the league? They've not won anything. All the pressure's on them. I know we have came away with a victory. I don't want to sound absolutely too negative about it, but in all honesty, played so much better than us. Should we just take it as like a pinch of salt? We've won the game regardless. It's away ground, conditions were tough. Should we be kind of taking a wee bit of a step back from this one and kind of analysing the bigger picture?
I think for me and Bruni were chatting about it, and I think Bruni maybe assessed it as being a kind of must not lose type game, and performance probably is irrelevant in that case. I think we had to go up there and win, because if you look at the course of this season, games against the likes of St Johnstone, Dundee, Ross County as well, you're expecting these teams to be in and around us come the end of the season, and picking up 3 points against them is going to be crucial in us being above those bottom two places come the end of the season. And we've went and got the job done. I think the positive I would take from it is we'd only scored 3 goals prior to the last 2 games in the league. We've spoke about it, games against the likes of Aberdeen, Motherwell, St Mirren. We've created plenty of opportunities in the games and not taking them. Whilst the last couple of weeks, I think Marv actually mentioned it when he was on Sports Scene Sunday night, we've had less possession in these games and maybe created a little bit less, but we've shown a ruthless streak in the last 2 games, and we've taken our chances when we've got them. And I think that's something that we've not shown earlier in the season. So, as you say, we probably only created 3, maybe 4 genuine chances in the game, and we've scored. So you look at the positive from that aspect is that we're being ruthless in front of goal, and we're taking our chances when we're getting them, which we weren't doing earlier in the season. So I would take that as a positive from the game. As I say, we've got the win. That's what matters. There's no pictures on a scorecard, the old phrase goes, and nobody's going to give a jot about the performance, in my opinion, after coming away, 95th minute winner. I think you need to look at the positive side of it. I'm sure the management team, I'm sure Davey, Marv, Dougie will be analysing it and looking where we could improve. I think there was a couple of performers who shone, the likes of Jason Holt, I thought was really competitive in the middle of the park. I don't think it was a day for him to show his footballing ability as such for Jason. It was more about his battling qualities, and a continuum from the game against St Johnstone, where he was excellent, kind of sitting in front of the back 4. I think Odin Bailey again showed in little glimpses the quality that he possesses and that little bit of end product that he's brought into his game as well. But look, as I say, it's one that won't go down as a classic in terms of performances wise, but it was just important to get the 3 points, in my opinion, Angus.
Yeah, 3 points is all that basically mattered there. We've taken ourselves, even further away from Ross County at the bottom. Was it 7 points ahead now from the bottom of the table, which, at any stage of the season is always good to, have that kind of a marker straight away. We can continue to build on that. Puts more pressure on them as well. We've already mentioned that they're winless and whatnot, but things are looking up for us. Hopefully we can continue that on Wednesday against Dundee United. Obviously, we'll talk about that a wee bit later, but yeah, anything else left to kind of talk about this one, Euan? We've kind of covered everything. I know 5-goal thriller, but there's probably not really an awful lot more to talk about, is there?
Well, having been at the game, I have to say there was a 10-minute spell in the first half in the crowd that was arguably the strangest 10 minutes I've ever experienced at a football game. Now, I'm going to call him out, Daniel Shaw. You'll know him as Shazam on Twitter. I think had enjoyed his train journey up, let's say, and had a few beverages. But he spent 10 minutes of the first half trying to organise a night out with Jack McMillan at the Twig in Bathgate, which, let's be clear here, the Twig is no longer open. It's been closed for at least a couple of years. But Daniel was very insistent that he was having a night out with Jack McMillan. Also saw there was also, I don't know if you maybe saw it on the TV, but in the Mallard pub that's next to Ross County's ground, in the toilet there was a machine which allowed you to buy foam penises and inflatable sheep. So again, I'm going to call out a couple of fans. Andrew Gattenby was getting all the subs and management team to touch his inflatable sheep as they walked past back to the bench. There was at least several inflatable foam penises on the pitch as the game was being played. I think everyone enjoyed their day. We'll put it that way. But there was that 10 minutes of Daniel Shaw just shouting, "Jack, Jack, Jack, you going to Twig tonight?" for 10 minutes. And he was also very insistent on speaking to Tom Parks and just saying hi to him as well when he was warming up. It was very strange, Angus. It was very, very strange. But all in all, very good afternoon. Very, very much worth the 6-hour round trip up to Dingwall. And as we say, hopefully it gives us a bit of confidence going into the Dundee United game.
It's so fucking strange.
Oh, mate. It was bizarre. I was genuinely turning around to Andy and my dad just going, this is the weirdest 10 minutes. And him and his pal were just shouting dog shit, right? They kept going, Malky, trying to shout to Malky Mackay, you're dog shit. And then they were just going to Blair Spittle, Blair, you're dog shit. Right? And I was just like, what is going on?
Honestly, man. That's hilarious.
It was weird. So weird. After a thumping 11-1 win on the road last weekend, the Lionesses were back at the Spaghetti Had as they welcomed Clyde. It was business as usual as they ran out 4-1 winners. Angus, you were covering this one for us. What were your thoughts on the game?
It was quite a strange one, in all honesty. It felt, in a lot of ways, kind of like a training match. Got to the game and, I arrived there about 5 minutes before this kickoff was supposed to happen. And, kind of noticed that the Clyde side had only had 9 players who were warming up, which was, whenever you show up for football, it's never really kind of that great a sign. But then the game was kind of delayed for, about 10 minutes. And, suddenly 2 players had appeared. I feel like one of the players may have been a sub-goalkeeper who had to start as well. So you can kind of imagine, I think we've all kind of played football and that sometimes where, you show up for a game, then there's wee delays or that, or you can see that your team's struggling at. And it sort of kind of takes the tempo out of the game kind of straight away. You do kind of feel not that it's going to be completely easy, but you're not at that kind of level that you're firing it all ways and all of that. But yeah, the game kind of kicked off and we dominated essentially. The first half, I don't really think that Clyde had any opportunities, within our half really. They were really pegged back at the whole time. And I think on, another day, if we had been, properly kind of up for it, this would have been an absolute demolition. I mean, we talked about 11-1 last weekend. If they'd played like that probably last weekend today, it could have been a very similar scoreline. Not saying that the Lassies didn't play well at all. They completely dominated the ball and created lots of chances. But, that kind of final product was just kind of missing for the most part. Sharon Hughes-Lee, was probably the biggest threat in that first half, just kept on, her trademark run that seems to be nowadays, just, powering down the line. It's very Nicky Devlin-like. But, yeah, it took a wee while for us, to make the breakthrough, despite having, probably... In all honesty, you'd probably say about 80-85% of possession, in all honesty. But yeah, Jacqueline Gillies was going through, dragging the ball up, she was playing as a centre half, had a shot that kind of got deflected through to Jen Dodds. And, if you get the ball to Dodds and, 6 yards from goal, it's always going to end up in the back of the net. 5 minutes from that as well, Sharon Hughes-Lee with one of her trademark runs, puts the ball back to Ashley Fish, who, seems to score this goal every single week. I think that's 12 for her for the season now. So yeah, she's just got a great knack of, losing the defender in that 6 yard box and, just firing it beyond. But yeah, after that, the game kind of, they started to come into it a wee bit more, but, you could see a wee bit of frustration kicking in. I think everybody was kind of, wanting to get on the score sheet because, they were in such complete control of the game. Everybody's kind of taking pot shots from, about 20 yards and all of that, but nothing really properly testing the goalkeeper. Going into half-time as well, the half-time break was a wee bit delayed as well. I don't know if, I think there may have been a couple of injuries for the Clyde side that, the referee was being a wee bit lenient and, giving them a wee bit of extra time to, kind of get sorted and all of that. Again, I don't think that helped the tempo of the game, and I think that's something, that did hinder the performance for the most part was, these kind of extended breaks that, weren't, exactly planned. But, straight after half-time, we got a corner and scored straight from it. Shannon Milligan with an incredible header. But yeah, the game just kind of went on from there, and I talked about in this the end of the first half, everybody was kind of wanting to shoot. I have no idea how it took us another 40 minutes to, get that fourth goal. We hit the bar twice from Fish and Walkinshaw. There was just so many chances that we had that, it just wouldn't go our way, essentially. And, against maybe a better side, that's something that would maybe be concerning. But at the same time, you can't really fault the Lassies because you can only play what's in front of you, and they completely dominated the game throughout as well. The fourth goal eventually did come about the 85th minute. Jen Dodds with an absolute amazing cross-field ball to Rebecca Gray, who cut back, who basically is kind of a carbon copy of Ashley Fish's goal. This time it was Shannon Mulligan who got on the end of that as well, made it 4-0, would soon then be 4-1 because Clyde, with their first kind of real attack of the game, they just sort of decided in the 88th minute basically that, screw it, we're going to venture forward one of these times. And, they got their reward for it. I think there will be a wee bit of disappointment from the home side that, they never kept that clean sheet after, being largely untested for, the whole kind of 90 minutes basically. But, it was kind of like a strange game in that kind of a sense where it didn't feel at the same tempo as a lot of the other ones that, we've been able to see this season. But the main thing is, they scored 4 goals and they've got 3 points, and, they'll go on to the game against BSC Glasgow next week.
I saw a couple of your tweets with regards to the game. You said that the halftime break was delayed a bit. I believe you were given some halftime entertainment with the tunes that were blaring out at the stadium as well.
Yeah, I think Derek and that are having a wee bit of fun, using that kind of tannoy system and that just now. But yeah, music tastes a wee bit questionable, I would say, but there seemed to be a real crowd pleaser that came on, a player pleaser, I guess, because Saturday Night by Wakefield came on, and straight away, whilst Clyde were taking kind of a wee bit of an extended break, spotted Fiona Boslam and Jacqueline Gillies, proper shimmy into to Saturday Night, all the dance moves and perfect. Look to the other side and Shannon Mulligan shouting at them and doing it from the halfway line as well. Questionable dance moves, I'll say. Not as questionable as when, Vicky Wood and Ashley Fish came over to join them. I'm not quite sure that this dance group was something that probably should continue, but, it was providing a wee bit of entertainment for, the support whilst, we're waiting for the second half to resume. But I don't know, maybe they'll be taking requests. Maybe we can ask the viewers, like, what songs we'd like to see this group dancing to next. But, yeah, not much else you can really say about that. But, for Shannon Mulligan, it must have brought her good luck because, after that, went and scored twice. I believe that's her up to, I think, 8 goals this season, having a great season in front of goal. Maybe she can incorporate some of that into, our celebration of that, perhaps.
I'm not going to lie, Wakefield Saturday Night, brilliant tune. I've got a soft spot for it after the Euros with David Marshall, so I absolutely love that tune. So I'm well up for that. Well up for the dance moves being on display as well. Well played, girls. But it sounds like a pretty comfortable afternoon, albeit maybe a tad of frustration involved. And the games I've watched, the girls, they do create plenty of chances in games, and sometimes it is just the case that they're maybe not clinical enough in front of goal, and they could really put teams to the sword a wee bit more often. But at the end of the day, a 4-1 win's a pretty comfortable afternoon's work, isn't it? So can't really complain too much. But 2 weekends on the bounce, 2 Livi doubles, both the men's and women's team winning. So let's hope we can keep that trend going as the season goes on. But very good afternoon's work, and hopefully the girls can resume that against BSC Glasgow next week.
It's a busy week ahead for the Lions as we welcome an informed Dundee United to West Lothian before a tough trip to Glasgow to take on Celtic. First up is Dundee United on Wednesday night. Euan, how are you feeling ahead of this one? Yeah,
Dundee United's it's a weird one because I'm not going to lie, when they made the appointment of Tam Courts, who was at Livi earlier in his career as manager, I genuinely thought they'd be struggling kind of bottom 3 or 4, but they're the surprise package this season, I've got to say. The recruitment's not that they've made a vast amount of players recruited, but the likes of Charlie Mulgrew's really added it in their back line. Boy Miskinen, the Finnish boy that's came in, he's looked really lively. Scored a couple of goals, important goals as well in games. So yeah, they've been a big surprise package, and they've got some big results as well this season. Beating Rangers early doors, I think second game of the season, going away to Celtic Park, getting a draw, and Celtic have been pretty rampant at Celtic Park, and at the weekend there, managing to get the result late on against Motherwell, obviously winning the derby as well. So they've got some big results so far this season, and as I say, they've proved to be the real surprise package, and I think it's going to be a really, really tough game for us. They are in form, but it's one of those weird ones. I can't quite put my finger on how they're doing so well, because there isn't a vast amount of change in terms of the personnel that they had from last year. But it just seems that some of the players have really upped their game. The likes of Edwards and Mulgrew at centre-half have been pretty formidable. At centre-half, boy, Fuchs in the middle of the park is a big bundle of energy. Ian Harkes looks like he's added a bit of cutting edge to his game in the middle of the park as well. Player I've always really liked is Nicky Clark up top. I think he's really creative centre-forward. Player I would have loved to have seen at Livi at some point. But they have threats in the middle of the park, and they're big players that you would have looked at last year are really producing this season so far. But as I say, it's going to be a really, really tough game for us. But I suppose the bonus for us is that we're coming in with a bit of confidence, and you can't get a much bigger confidence boost than a 95th minute winner away from home, can you? So it gives us a bit of a platform to go into the game with a bit of confidence at home as well. You'd like to think we might have a bit of a go at Dundee United and see what we can do, but watching some of the highlights of Dundee United games, they were very, Easter Road in particular, they were very clinical on the counter-attack, second half against Hibs. So we do need to be wary of that. We can't go too gun-ho at it, which I'm sure it's not really our style to go quite gun-ho like that. So I highly doubt that. But I think it's going to be a very competitive game. And as I say, I think looking at the form guide with Dundee United, if we were to get a point, I think I'd be quite happy with that. And we spoke about it after the Hearts game with these 4 games, the St Mirren, St Johnstone, Ross County, Dundee United games coming up. Had we got 6-7 points out of those 4 games, we would have been pretty happy with that return. So, as I say, if we were to get a point on Wednesday night, it would be a decent return from those 4 games.
Dundee United are a very strange side because you look at last season, and I just think the best way to describe them is just boring. I think that last season they were just a side who, they were just sort of there. I don't know if that was just, under Mickey Mellon. Did he make them just kind of too pragmatic? Was his style, first, the main thing at first is, not to get beat, and then possibly whatever comes from that is, any better. Now, Courts just came in, he's allowing these kind of players to, have a wee bit more freedom and express themselves. And, they've got that defensive solidity still as well, but, they have got, that kind of confidence to go and punish teams as well. They are the informed team in the league right now. So, yeah, it's not going to be an easy task whatsoever. They have kind of surprised a lot of people, if they keep on playing like this, they're going to be a team who's up there for the top 6. We're going to have to be at our best for this one. We can't really kind of slack. I mean, you kind of mentioned there as well how clinical they are in front of goal. Probably can't afford to give them as many chances as we did Ross County at the weekend there. But yeah, kind of going looking for ourselves right now. What kind of team would you like to see lining up against Dundee United during? Would you stick with something quite similar? I guess it's all down to injuries and who's available yet again, as it seems to be so many times this season.
I mean, there was a couple of players that came off during the week there. At the weekend there, the likes of Fitzwater coming off, which are a wee bit of a concern. Io took I think in a challenge that he made, took a bit of a dull one as well. So that's a little bit of a concern. But at least Tom Parks is now available for selection, so that maybe eases the pressure on the centre-half front. Left backs proved to be a bit of a problem position for us this year, despite, I think Davey made a kind of tongue-in-cheek comment about the number of left backs that we signed in the summer, and we seem to be really struggling to field the left backs. So it's quite a strange one, to be honest, and it'll be interesting to see who plays there. I think Sean Kelly had quite a tough afternoon, if I'm totally honest, in the wide areas up against the boy Hungbo, but he looked like a pretty tricky player. So It'll be interesting to see if the likes of Jacko's maybe available for selection, or if he maybe puts McMillan in as another option as well. Obviously, Jack's played left back numerous times for us and came on as a wing back when we changed their shape at the weekend there. So that's maybe one to look at. In terms of midfield, Sibs has been back on the bench. As much as I was very complimentary about the likes of Omionga and Pittman against St Johnstone, I don't think they contributed quite as much in the Ross County game. But I still think Pitts makes us tick. He's a player that is one of the first names on the team sheet. So maybe the opportunity to give Sybil the run out, who knows? But as I say, I think the other one I'd maybe look at is Montano. I'd like to see Forrest come in from the start. Again, I think Montano's been quite quiet the last couple of games. I'd like to see Forrest come in because I think he contributed an assist in the game, and I think he offers us a genuine goal threat from the wide areas as well. So there's plenty of options there. I think it was an issue that we had earlier in the season with injuries and things like that, that the team was kind of almost picking itself because of the folk who were available. But I think you've got a few options coming back into the fold now, which gives Davey a bit of a headache. But it's difficult to go and change the team when you've won games, but maybe the performance would suggest otherwise from the weekend there. But what about yourself, Angus? Is there anyone you'd like to see come in? I mean, I can guess Alan Forrest is one for you anyway. That's a guaranteed one from yourself.
It's just on the bingo card.
Yeah, exactly. But any other players you'd like to maybe see come into the team?
Nah, I think you're kind of spot on with what you said, basically. Yeah. I think that midfield kind of picks itself right now until, like Craig Sibbald becomes fully fit. That kind of energy that we need in that middle of the park, I think, even though we weren't quite completely at it against Ross County, I think that is probably the best way for us to go right now, that whole Pittman, Omionga. But then obviously with, Sibbald coming back from the bench and that, the pressure we put on those players, to perform. But yeah, Forrest as well on the left wing. With Bailey cutting in on the right hand side, I mean, we could have that double threat on either side, which both teams would have to be concerned about because you've got two players who can punish you. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see first of all and foremost who's available. I'm sure something's going to end up happening between today's Monday and Wednesday night. Something stupid's going to happen to a player, isn't it? With our injury record this season, but hopefully not. Fingers crossed, and hopefully we've got a fit and healthy squad for the game before we make that daunting trip to Celtic Park, which I know things are quite positive right now. How do you feel about going to Parkhead, Euan?
I think Celtic have turned a corner. To be honest, I think Ange Postecoglou has been quite blunt with the media. He's shown his Aussie personality in the media recently with a couple of comments, especially after the Motherwell game. He was asked if the title race is back on, and I think he came out with, "Oh, you told me 3 weeks ago the title race was over, so we're not even looking at the table." So I do think Celtic have turned a corner. I think they're gradually coming to terms with the way that Postecoglou likes to play. We obviously played them a few weeks back. It's not that long ago that we beat them at our place, but the likes of Furuhashi is back available, who I'm not going to lie, I'm dreading us coming up against. The boy Yota has looked really, really lively. Abada as well, coming off the right hand side, been adding plenty of goals and assists for Celtic as well. So they have a lot of threats across the park, and I can't see us going to Celtic Park and getting a result. They've been quite rampant in a lot of games there this season. So I think it's going to be a very long afternoon. I think it'll be very much a similar setup. I think we'll be putting 5 men behind the ball. It'll be on paper maybe a 4-3-3, but it'll be very much a 4-5-1, putting men behind the ball and trying to restrict the spaces in between the lines and sitting deep and trying to protect, and where we can try and break on them. But in terms of personnel for that game, it might be one that you go and introduce Ben Williamson for his legs. He was very good against Celtic in the 1-0 game at our place. In terms of, we've always talked about that kind of tenacity that he has, that energy that he brings in the middle of the park. He might be one to come in for that game just to add to that and give us, a bit of freshness in the midfield, and obviously try and support whoever's playing up top, most likely Anderson. Try and give him a bit of support as well, running from midfield. So, it'll be interesting. I can't see us setting up any other way. But how are you feeling ahead of that one?
Not great. To put it bluntly. Yeah, you mentioned those kind of players, and just kind of like some of the defensive frailties that we've shown this season. I just don't like the idea of, Furuhashi and Yota and Abada running in behind us and creating ample opportunities, because they've been doing it all season. Cal McGregor also will be back for this game. He never played against us in the home fixture, but yeah, we've just got to go there and, it's a free hit essentially. As long as it's not like an absolute humiliating scoreline, I don't think we can really be too disheartened by it. We're not going. Our season's not going to be defined on games like this. But yeah, hopefully there's a strong performance, that brings us some sort of, respect or whatever. We do ourselves justice with our performance out there. But yeah, it's not one that I can say that I'm very much looking forward to. But we'll see what happens, and yeah, not looking forward to it at all.
Stranger things have happened, Angus, haven't they? We said that in the build up to the last game against Celtic, but obviously Celtic Park's a totally different ball game from playing at our place, isn't it? So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough afternoon for us. But as you say, it's one of those games. It's a free hit. Nobody's expecting us to go there and get anything. So hopefully we can be very compact, limit Celtic as much as we can. But as I say, they've racked up some big numbers in some of the victories at Celtic Park this season. So it does give me a little bit of a fear. But if I was to push you for predictions, so we'll start with Wednesday night's game. That's obviously the first one up against Dundee United. Do you think we can get a positive result against them, an informed team in the league?
Yeah, I'm going to strangely and uniquely be positive for once. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Don't think that's pushing the boat out too far enough, but I think it's achievable as well. Yeah, a lot of confidence for both teams in that, but yeah, let's see what happens. It would be massive for us, getting another point from that game. Hopefully results elsewhere would go our way as well. But yeah, I don't think that's too out of the realm of possibility.
I was thinking very much the same, Angus. I'm going along the lines of one each as well. I think we can get a point. And as I say, 7 points from those 4 games that we were all pinpointing at the start of the season as being the opportunity to kind of get our season up and running. I think would be a very good return from those games. So I'm going one each as well. I'm gonna assume both of us are going to be very different in terms of our predictions for the Celtic game, in terms of positive results. So I'll go with you first. How many? I'm going with the Celtic one.
Yeah. How many? 4-0 Celtic, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna go along the lines of 3-0 Celtic. I think it's going to be a difficult afternoon, but I think if you come away from Celtic Park this season with the way that they are playing under Postecoglou, I think 3-0 is not a disrespectful scoreline going there. So I'd not saying I'd be happy with the 3-0 defeat, but I'd be somewhat mildly satisfied if we managed to keep it down to that. So hopefully we can go and grab more than what we're predicting. Hopefully we can go and get even more positive results on the board and really start pushing up the table. But 2 tough games for us, but get yourselves down midweek to the Spaghetti Had. Nothing better than a game under the lights, so get yourself down if you're available and cheer the team on. That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in and week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Euan said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Search Talk Livi to find us and you'll find all our links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you though, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
And just before we wrap up this week, obviously we mentioned on the podcast last week about the news with Daniel Barden being diagnosed with testicular cancer. The club put up yesterday about getting involved in Movember to raise some funds. Obviously it's very much poignant at the moment with what's the news about Daniel coming out. So the players are going to be growing some interesting and questionable tashes over the next 5 to 6 weeks, I reckon. So if you can, I'm sure any donations would be greatly appreciated by the club for that, and I'm sure the players will produce some interesting moustaches with some of the characters that are about the club. So if you can get involved with that, please do. But once again, as always, thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Let's hope for another great week following the Lothian's finest football team.
West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, no Livingston, it's up to Ammonvale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston. We love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Ammonvale Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston.